All right, so welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're heading to the Philippines.
Cool.
We found a really interesting interview with a retired American named Lou who's spent a lot of time over there, like the last 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and he talks about how moving there was life-changing.
Really?
So we want to find out what made his experience so special. Was
Okay.
it just, a cheaper place to live, or was it something deeper?
Yeah, like what's the story there?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, it turns out his story is actually pretty interesting.
Oh.
He didn't initially go there for, like a vacation or anything.
Mm.
Back in the early 2000s, he was dealing with heart failure.
Oh, wow.
And he needed physical therapy,
Yeah.
but it was just way too expensive in the U.S.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that's what led him to the Philippines.
I mean, that's incredible how healthcare costs can be so different. He said he was paying something like $45 a month for therapy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You couldn't even get a copay for that here.
No way.
It makes you think about how we approach healthcare.
It really does.
Why is it so expensive here?
Yeah. Are there things we could be doing differently to make it more affordable?
I mean, it's a big question.
For sure.
But Lou's story definitely makes you think.
Absolutely.
And the amazing thing is, his health actually got a lot better over there. He said he went from barely walking with a cane
Wow.
to taking 15,000 steps a day.
That's a huge change.
Right.
So this sounds like the affordable therapy definitely helped.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if maybe the change in lifestyle played a part too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like moving to a new place often means a different pace of life. Maybe his diet changed or his stress levels.
Right, maybe all of that combined with the exercise helped him recover.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes you realize how much our environment can impact our health.
Absolutely. There's actually a lot of research now about how our surroundings affect our well-being.
Oh, really?
Yeah, both physically and mentally.
That's fascinating. I know Lou mentioned that he wouldn't necessarily go to the Philippines for major surgery. He still thinks the U.S. is more advanced in some areas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Different healthcare systems have their strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
It's not one size fits all, but it's interesting to see how his experience worked out.
It really is.
And it wasn't just about healthcare. The cost of living seemed to be a big factor, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He was comparing like 4- or 5-star hotels in the Philippines to Motel 6s here.
Wow.
That's a pretty big difference.
Huge.
And he mentioned food and dining being much cheaper, too.
Now, that makes me curious about what he ate.
Yeah, like, did he try Filipino food? It's supposed to be amazing.
Oh, it is. Lots of different flavors and influences.
Mm.
You can get fresh seafood, tropical fruits, all sorts of unique dishes.
Like what?
Oh, adobo, sinigang.
Sinigang. I've never even heard of that.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And all for way less than what you'd pay here.
Man, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. It sounds like a great place to experience new food
It is.
affordably.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what else was interesting?
What's it?
Lou kept talking about how kind and welcoming the Filipino people were.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it really seemed to have made an impact on him.
I can see that.
It's like he really connected with the culture.
And that makes sense because Filipinos are known for their hospitality. It's not just about being polite. It's about really welcoming people and making them feel at home.
Oh, wow.
And that ties into this idea of bayanihan.
Ayanihan, what's that?
It's this concept of community spirit, like helping each other out.
Huh. Yeah, it sounds like that really resonated with him.
Oh, definitely.
And that sense of community extends to family, too, right?
Yeah, and relationships. So here's where Lou's story takes a bit of a turn.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, he originally went to the Philippines for physical therapy. But then on a later trip, he met his future wife.
Oh, wow.
And she's Filipina.
Really?
Yeah, and now they have an 18-year-old son together.
So from rehab to romance, that's quite a journey.
It is.
What made him decide to build a life there?
Well, falling in love was a big part of it, obviously. But I think the welcoming culture and the slower pace of life probably appealed to him too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He actually talks about how different his experience was with Filipino women compared to what he calls demanding Western women. He really emphasizes the support and care he found in his wife.
That's an interesting comparison, but I think it's important to remember that relationships are complex.
Oh, for sure.
And they vary a lot between cultures and individuals.
Absolutely.
You can't really generalize about entire groups of people.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into stereotypes.
Right.
But everyone's different.
Exactly.
You have to be careful about making assumptions, especially based on someone's culture or background.
Yes.
It's just not accurate. Everyone has their own unique experiences.
Right.
So, yeah, Lou's experience is valid, but it doesn't necessarily represent the whole picture. Speaking of cultural differences,
Yeah.
Lou also mentioned that age gaps in relationships are less of an issue in the Philippines.
Oh, right.
He didn't go into too much detail. But it makes you wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, cultural norms around age gaps do vary,
Uh-huh.
but you still have to be mindful of power imbalances.
Absolutely.
Regardless of where you are or what the culture is like, it's important to make sure there's consent and respect and equality in any relationship.
For sure.
But anyway, it sounds like Lou really wants to share his love for the Philippines with others.
He
He
does.
basically says, if you haven't been there, you're missing out,
Yeah.
especially people from colder climates. And he even recommends it for people with arthritis.
Oh, interesting.
He thinks the warm, humid weather can help with joint pain.
Hmm.
It reminds me of all the research on how climate can affect our health. Like, could a change in weather actually improve certain conditions?
There's some evidence that suggests it might.
Yeah.
For example, sunlight is important for vitamin D, which is good for your bones and immune system.
Right.
And for some people, warmer temperatures can ease joint stiffness. So Lou's experience kind of lines up with that research.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Makes you wonder if we underestimate the power of nature and a change of scenery.
I think you're right. I mean, Lou's story shows how moving to a different environment can really change things, not just physically, but in your relationships too.
Yeah.
And he's clearly passionate about the Philippines.
Mm.
He truly believes it changed his life.
But what does that even mean, life-changing? Is it just about cheaper healthcare and cost of living? Or is there something more to it?
Yeah, I think for Lou, it goes beyond just the practical stuff.
Right.
It's more about feeling like he belongs,
Mhm.
finding a community that really embraces him,
Mm-hmm.
and a way of life that makes him happy.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. It's about those things you can't really measure. The feeling of connection, the kindness of the people, that slower pace of life that lets you have real interactions. Those are things that we often lose sight of
Oh, yeah.
in our busy go culture.
Especially here. It makes you think, are we so busy chasing goals that we forget about the things that really matter?
Like,
Connection and community,
mm,
belonging.
Mm.
Exactly. Lou's story is like a reminder that sometimes what we're looking for isn't some big achievement or fancy thing. It's a way of life that fits who we are, that gives us peace and makes us feel content.
that's a good way to put it. So let's recap what we've learned from Lou's experience.
Okay.
First, we saw how different healthcare can be around the world and how affordable care is possible in some places.
Right.
We also got a glimpse into Filipino culture, their incredible hospitality, their views on relationships and age. But I think the biggest takeaway is that a change of scenery can really transform you. It can
Yeah.
make you rethink what's important and maybe even find a new path in life.
Absolutely.
Lou's story shows us that sometimes. Life-changing experiences happen when you least expect them, and that being open to the unknown can lead to a more fulfilling life.
I love that.
So here's a question for everyone listening. What does life-changing mean to you? Could exploring a new culture or trying a different way of life help you discover what truly matters? Something to think about as you continue your own deep dives into the world around us.